Yeah, no more. No.
Hey, whoever's watching out there in the chat right now, let me know if you can hear me, because it's not giving me signal. This is me testing my own audio to see if it's popping up on stream. And now that you know he can hear us, we are live here on Plus One EXP's Roll for Content channel. My name is Tony Vicinda. I'm Chief Alchemist here at Plus One EXP, which is a weird little brand that multi-classes in tabletop game design, beard and skincare alchemy, and the Bardic College of Content Creation. Our hope and desire is to help amazing players find great designers whose games they can love, and amazing designers find great players who can love their games. We do that in a lot of different ways, but the most fun way is sitting down with those designers and some friends to play those games, which is exactly what we're doing today. We're playing Terminal, a game of digital pirate action, and we've got the creators here with us. Kayla, why don't you tell people who you are, what you do, and a little bit about Terminal?
Yeah, I'm Kayla Dice. I publish games as Ratwave Gamehouse. Previous things I've made are like Transgender Deathmatch Legend, Old Gods and Young Guns, Follow Me in the Night. I describe a lot of my games as focusing on themes of alienation and connection. And I was one of the winners of the Diana Jones Emerging Designer Program recently.
Yay!
This is the first game I've ever kickstarted. It's kickstarting at the moment. It's Terminal, a digital pirate action game. The quick pitch is essentially the world as you know it, turn of the 21st century Earth, is a lie. It is a simulation called the Terminal, which all of humanity is trapped and manipulated within. And you will play a series of pirates who have escaped from this into the real world, which we call the Wake, where on the seas, pirates from the island Libertation battle against these killer robots, plug back in, and try and battle the systems agents and work to take it down. What we'll be playing today is sort of like the startup operation, which, you know, in a longer case would kick off a sort of bigger campaign, but will hopefully give us a taste of the world. And it's a game that is currently funding. It was being written and designed by me. It is illustrated by Gorman Geist, who's the creator of Bubblegum Vampires, which was on IO9 recently, and Nuclear Knights as well. They are amazingly talented, beautiful art. So feel really privileged to work with them. And then it's edited by Alyssa Ridley from Biscuit Front Games, who did Goblin Country and Tournament Arc, and I am really enjoying that editing process as well. So yeah, if watch this and game excites you, you can check it out at terminal.ratwave.uk.
Awesome. I am super excited to play. I also got to do a deeper read of it this morning, and just the writing in the quick start and the way you set things up, some of the ways it plays with the genre, as well as the interplay between high seas and plugging in is super, super exciting. I'm very excited to see what the final form looks like. But we'll talk about that more a little bit later, and let's meet the other folks we are playing with today. Back on stream again, we've got a couple familiar faces returning. Let's start with Daniel. Why don't you tell people who you are, what you do, where they can find you online?
Yeah, hi there, everyone. I'm Daniel. I am a podcaster, comedian, musician, gamer, and this is yet another stream that I have done with Tony, and I'm very excited for it. You can find me anywhere online, basically, at Dantendo64, DANTENDO64. I'm not as active on social medias these days as I used to be, but I'm sure once Blue Sky takes off, I'll really jump onto it.
Are you in on Blue Sky? Do you already have the...
I am indeed, yes.
Yeah. I'm getting those invites out as quickly as I can to people. I've got a little bit of a lineup right now, but
Nice.
I'm excited to see people move somewhere else. So, Mark, why don't you tell us the same things? Who you are, what you do, where folks can find you online?
Yeah, I'm Mark. I use he or them pronouns. I really enjoy playing with Tony and everyone else. I play a lot. I design a bunch of games. I've been doing it for a while, and I'm just here to have a good time. You can find all my stuff linked off of my hub website, major.com, MAJCHER. And yeah, I'm on all the things all the time. Go take a look.
Since we always play with different groups of people, and because we just think it's a good idea at any table, we use a couple different safety tools here on the channel. Unless the system we're using dictates otherwise, we use lines, veils, the X card, and an open door policy. Lines are things that may happen in the world of the game, but they don't happen while we're playing it. They are firmly off limits. So we have a strong line against sexual coercion and sexual violence here on the channel. We also use veils, which are things that may happen in play, but we either mention them and move on, only confront them in a certain light. They're basically things we treat with a certain level of care and consideration as we approach them. And then the X card is the ability for anyone at any point in time to say or type X. We'll pause the game, identify the issue, remove that issue from the game, and proceed in a different direction. We may update our lines and our veils at that time also, just so we remember those things going forward. Does anybody have any lines or veils that they want to add to that list?
Yes, I'd like to add a line of over intoxication.
Awesome.
I think I like the veil torture in general. That's good.
Cool.
I think I'd like to veil any injury to eyes directly. Yeah. Otherwise, nothing comes to mind.
Awesome. We can always update those as we go. And like I said, we also use an open door policy, which means you may see us need to get up, move around, leave. We may need to take a break at some point in time, but if one person gets up because they have something they have to do, it's totally normal at a table. It's totally normal on our stream. And if you are somebody who enjoys normal things or abnormal things, we're glad to have you here. Please take care of yourself while you're watching also too. Kayla, is there anything that people should know before we dive in who are out there watching? Any sort of caution warnings or anything else we want to give people a heads up on about the themes we're going to be confronting?
Yeah, I will actually just to give the content warning stuff. Not all of this stuff is going to feature in this own adventure. Some of this will probably be able to limit, but I think it's a game and the book at least is designed in some places to be quite intense, was quite personal in terms of that creation. But let me just find the content warnings. Some of these are more straightforward than others. Oh yeah, so unreality. This is, it's a game about the idea that like everything you see isn't real. There's violence, injury, death, firearms. As it comes to like maybe the wider game, there's stuff around like sort of mental illness and imprisonment and sort of like some elements of body horror. Those probably won't feature so much this time. In this adventure specifically, there's some mentions of transphobia. We can like, dial that as much, out from that as much as we want, or it can be dialed more in. In the writing of the game, there's a deliberate sort of shading of the robot authority, the people who keep humanity trapped in the simulation, with themes reminiscent of sort of abuse and coercive control. This is more in the writing, and at least as I run the game on this, considering we're just doing it as a one-shot stream, that's not an element I'm going to emphasize a lot. Though, if you're interested in this game, I do want you to be aware of that, because that is a fact that's there in the writing.
Cool. Awesome. I love the way that you're exploring those themes through some of the writing. I'm really excited to see, even for the things that won't come up in our play today, how they unfold in the final game. But with that said, I'm going to hand things over to you to take us into Terminal.
Yeah, awesome. So maybe what's useful also for the benefit of everyone watching is I'll give you the sort of pitch of the sort of different elements of the setting, and then ask everyone to introduce their characters. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Cool. So, like I said, world is not as you know it. What you thought was turn of the 21st century Earth is a simulation called the Terminal, which the robot authority uses to keep people controlled. As well as the sleepers who live blind to its true nature, the Terminal is populated by programs who enforce the system's rules and protect its integrity. Programs that become obsolete are deleted, though a few renegades escape their mandated termination date and survive, hidden within the Terminal itself. Most sleepers live their lives in the Terminal with no idea of the truth, but some, perhaps at random, get the sense that the world is wrong, a way it doesn't fit right on their skin, a sense of being out of sync, a sense of danger that can never be escaped. It can make them feel crazy. Through their dreams and with the help of strange outcasts, they realize the truth of the Terminal and begin to find a way to escape. The robot authority does not require a docile population of sleepers under control for their survival. The Terminal and its population are kept in this manner because the robot authority believe this is how things should be, what life should look like, how it should feel, and how it should be structured. They believe they understand it better than any sleeper ever could. The real world is the wake. Humanity and the robots shattered the moon and flooded the Earth in their early conflict. No one knows what year it is. Digital pirates from the island Libertatia battle robots on the seas and venture into the Terminal to free sleepers and find a way to end the robot authority's control. And what we're going to play today is the game features a startup operation, which sort of serves two things. One, it's about like kicking off like a wider campaign, but also it kind of serves the purpose of like modeling, how to just improvise an operation for a GM figure. So it's going to introduce us to the world of the Terminal, take us through ways we interact with it, and, in theory, we'll like light a fuse. So why don't you introduce your characters, and then I can go into the setup.
Mark, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. My character's name is Goliath. He was an athlete when sleeping, but now is awake and is the gunner on our ship there. In the Terminal, he's got a checkerboard tuxedo, really sweet trainers, and wears full drag makeup. He just looks awesome. He's agnostic, and we have a bunch of connections with folks that we'll probably meet. That's a good start.
Awesome. What reputations do they have?
Goliath is hearty, observant, and smooth.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah. So every character in Terminal, I should say, just because Agnosticism came up there, like has an outlook which is a perspective on the figure of the Omen, who is part of this cycle of reincarnation and often spells the death knell of an individual iteration. We'll learn a bit more about this in the game, but I'm, introducing things at a pace. Who'd like to go next and introduce their character?
I'll go next. My character's name is Bagworm. He was in the Terminal a jazz singer at various nightclubs, and still believes it's the 1920s, basically. In the Terminal, a nice tailored pinstripe suit, fancy walking cane, the most amazing pompadour you've ever seen. He's boatswain on the ship, postmodern revivalist outlook, and reputations are fearless, unimpressed, and slick.
I am playing Ring. I background. I was in my sleeping life. I was a hotel concierge, but I'm the helms person and de facto captain. I am a decipherist, and my reputations, which apparently I forgot to pick the last one, but I'll get to that in just one second. Are connected and curious are the two that I have down so far, and I will look at why I didn't write my third one down because I don't remember what I was gonna do for it. But I'll figure that out in just a second and let you know when it comes up.
Sure. I'll also say, so you're a ship's crew together, and when you plug into the terminal, there is another character who is part of your ship who helps guide you through that. They're always an NPC because basically I wrote out in the thing, it's probably a bit unfair on one player to say you don't go into the terminal. So there's options here. The one I've picked for you is Marin, who is hearty, empathic, and young. They were someone who was born in the wake. They're a child of retired soldiers and as such, like, can't plug into the simulation themselves, but they are someone who has sort of often dreamed of like great big adventure, and this hope is part of why they became a navigator. So they're an NPC who their role can vary in terms of how major or minor they are for it. But in terms of where we begin our story, your ship, does your ship have a name? Or do we want to roll a ship name for you?
Let's roll a ship name.
Let's roll a ship name, yeah.
Yeah. Can someone roll me 2d10s?
Yeah, I can do that right now. 3 to 2.
So that is the Smoker's Jewel.
Love it.
So yeah, the Smoker's Jewel, you are outside a data rig called Watcher's Point. Data rigs, there's like a handful of them. They're like big, shaped like big oil platforms made of steel and often with different things. They're areas usually which like the robot authority use just to, keep the terminal running and interconnected. And they are some amongst places where you can find a plug into the simulation. This one, Watcher's Point, will plug you into a domain where you can meet the Seer, who is a program who is allied to sort of the robots. They are, no, sorry, I misspoke on my words there completely. The Seer is a character who is a program who's designed to get closer to the awoken humans and understand them. But at some point along the way, she began to care. She's capable of calculations that resemble near perfect prophecy. And so sometimes acts as an ally, but is not entirely always trusted by every human. Your ship, the Smoker's Jewel, has been requested by the Seer. Are any of you familiar with her before? Have any of you met her or interacted with her in any way? Or is she just this distant figure you know of and haven't gone close to?
Anybody got any thoughts? Since I am recently awoken and also the de facto captain, I'll go with I know the Seer, and they were some way, shape, or form connected with me ending up in charge of the ship.
Nice.
Nice. So Seer's reputations are challenging, hopeful, and tender. Like, how do you find her challenging? Is it, just in terms of the way she pushes you, or do you think it's something about having to deal with prophecy that you find challenging?
Oh, I mean, I think literally, like, I woke up and then got handed a ship in a new world that I was totally unfamiliar with, and it is the Seer who was like, give this person a ship, like they're the captain now. Like, I think I feel like, I don't know that I don't know that I'm upset or angry at them, but I feel like they definitely pushed me into a place that I did not ask for when I was already trying to take a whole lot on. And I find that they are willing to push me beyond what I think I am capable of.
Yeah, that makes sense. So this data rig Watcher's Point is basically permanently held by pirates. It's quite close to Libertatia. And on here is a mind dock, which is where you sort of sit in a chair. It's an area where something will be placed over your eyes. You can plug in and you'll go in there. Marin, busy, gets this set up because that's their job. They're going to help guide you through this process. I suppose a question for each of you is, Tony, your character has only recently awoken. Have you plugged back in before at all? Or is it still sort of new for you?
No, I think it's fairly recent, but I've been back in a few times at this point. So this is not the first time.
Yeah, same.
Yep.
How do you think each of your characters feel about the act of going back to the terminal? This was what once felt like the real world to you, and now you can see it all in an entirely different light.
Wait, hold on. Let me confirm something. Are we all recently awoken?
I've been awake for a few years.
A few years. Okay.
I've been awake for about a year.
For about a year. Okay, that's so we've got a bunch of youngins on the ship.
Yeah, I mean, the game does work that way. So I
was just curious. We just hadn't talked about it.
Creation, yeah. There's no classes or stuff. People have individual roles on the ship, but that's more just a way of delineating equipment and a bit about your sort of relationships and stuff. So yeah, Marin will get you set up. Were any of you ever nervous about plugging in, or are you like, yeah, let's do this, let's go for it?
I think Goliath is kind of excited every time we go back in because it's we're going back to a familiar feeling, but with an exciting new purpose, kind of.
I think because this is connected to the Seer and because we were specifically requested, I am 100% anxious, but hiding it well from everybody else.
Bagworm is excited every time we go in. He is convinced that this time he will be able to find his estranged wife and convince her to to wake up.
Yeah. Cool. So Marin's clapping at her hands, cool, let's do this, let's go. It's young and excitable. The way it feels when you enter the terminal, it's like a short, sharp scratch almost at the back of your mind. And then it's almost like a sense of vertigo, a sense of things getting sort of blurry. You almost feel like you're falling, but you can't hit the ground. And then almost in an instant, it's like everything around your vision switches and jolts up, and you are in the terminal. Where you are right now is on the side of a long, stretching highway in the middle. So your appearance will have also changed to resemble the terminal selves you described. Do you comment on anything, or are you instantly just sort of cool, we got a job to do, we got a place to be?
I think I always adjust, I adjust this very finely tailored suit as if I'm not comfortable in it every single time we jack in for no apparent reason.
So probably if you can hear Marin's voice, not in your head, from a distant radio. And it says so the way you find the Seer, apparently, is you need to stretch on the highway and just travel on it for a bit. And apparently you'll come across her at some point. So I have hacked in a little transportation for you. There is a a sort of busted up car, presumably to be like indiscreet, which Marin has hacked in and is just waiting there with keys in the ignition. Who drives?
I mean, I'm the helms person, so yes.
Makes sense.
I think I sit down in the driver's seat also. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is a long sort of journey as you just go on this highway that stretches out and is almost endless. You may sort of start to feel yourself getting nervous, and eventually at some point you'll notice an abandoned sort of petrol shop, and then there is a woman wandering by the side of a road with a metal detector. She's like covered it, wearing a jumpsuit with grease stains on, has got sort of like shaved buzz cut, has a big gallon thing, and all of your sort of records and stuff will tell you like, yes, this is what the scene looks like. It's time to stop and say hello to her.
Pull over her to the side, crank down the window and ask if they need a ride.
Yeah, I think I found everything I could get from here. Like, holds up just sort of like some stray coins and weird junk sound metal detectors. Like, and I expected I might find you here to give me a lift. It's good to see you all again. Or is it the first time for some of you?
I don't think it's the first time for Goliath.
Probably the first time for Bagworm.
Like,
Yeah, I think Goliath is just like really happy to see them. Like, come on in, let's have a chat.
Like drinking from like her large sort of like gallon bottles, going like, yeah, sorry, Bagworm, we've not actually met before. It can be difficult when you've seen everything already.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you.
You say that now, but maybe wait until we've met a few times before you decide if you're comfortable with it. Someone is in trouble.
I mean,
A lot of people are in trouble.
just one person?
Pretty much always the case.
Yeah. There's a lady who needs help waking up, and it's very important that you do this. It's something to do. As you know, let me rephrase this better line. Like, this woman needs to wake up. And when she does, it's time for someone to begin walking the path of the omen again. Now, this is where I'll give you this bit more backstory. Let me get to our thing. So, the Omen is a foretold figure in the world of Terminal, someone able to break past the usual limitations of the Terminal. They are stronger, faster, and tougher than any programs, able to see things no other humans could, capable of reshaping things like only the robots could. The first Omen was Harbinger, who was one of the original sort of founders of Libertatia, the island where pirates live. And it was always thought that Harbinger, with their unique abilities, would be one to shut down the Terminal. When they chose a reboot instead, those hopes crumble. Nearly a century after Harbinger's reboot, someone else emerged with the same unparalleled abilities. They carried with them complex data once seen in Harbinger, and with it, their extraordinary power. So some started to theorize, like, when it was dispersed, when Harbinger initiated the reboot and had found its way to someone else. Perhaps it was by design, a reincarnation. It was the first occurrence of what came to be called the Omen. Second Omen battled the robots, banished key to programs from the Terminal. Things seemed as unstable as they ever did, and then they ventured to the Central Processing Unit and initiated a reboot of the Terminal. The cycle continued. The Omen returned, the Omen battled, the Omen initiated a reboot. And those in the wake have never fully understood why. Why did they always choose the reboot to reboot the Terminal rather than destroy it? Why did the Omen have to make that choice? Could the robots not reboot the Terminal themselves? Something changed last time. Most of the Omens, when they journeyed to the Central Processing Unit, We're certain they would not be initiating the reboot regardless of what they found there. Ultimately, they were all made liars of. The last Omen transmit seemed resigned they would do what was expected, but left their crew with a message. I fear I cannot change my own fate, but maybe I can change what fate itself is. I think if we see each other again, it will be in a different world. I love you all. So it has been almost a century since this last happened, and now the seer is telling you that there is one person there asking you to look after and saying doing this is going to be the first steps on the path of the Omen. So how are you all reacting to this news, which is essentially, hey, shit's about to start happening in a big way?
Anyone have an initial knee jerk?
I think Goliath's kind of overly cheerful demeanor kind of drops for a moment, kept realizing I think his initial like social instinct is to be like, hell yeah, let's roll. But it kind of hits him and he's like, oh, this is actually gonna be like not fun times. This is gonna be some trying times before like popping it back up.
Yeah, I think, my initial thought is, how are the, like, if the seer knows this, then obviously other programs are going to know this also too. So how are they responding is kind of, I think, where my immediate reaction kind of goes to. And after we know what, and dang it, I didn't write down character names. After we know what Dan's character does, then I will, I'll ask that question.
So Bagworm
Thank you.
is a little overwhelmed, I think, at all of this and the implications, and just is a little uncertain of what they'd be able to do to contribute.
The seer goes in response to like the question that maybe, sorry, what was your character's name, Tony? I realized I've missed that.
Ring.
Ring, yes. I knew you had one of the verb ones. So you go like, in answer to the question Ring hasn't even got to asking yet, it would just be like, they're under observation. It's troubling. Truth is, this is a race against time. If you save them, they could be very important in the days to come. But if you fail, well, then I suppose you were always going to.
So I guess where to then?
Mm-hmm.
So you'll need to plug into another domain, techduen.xml, so you'll know this. So this is like, you're going to plug out here and we're going to go on the seas, sailing the seas. So it's giving you that. Can give you a bit of a lowdown on the sleeper now, or in theory you can discover that in play. This is almost me stepping back. I can have the seer tell you this stuff, or you can discover it yourself. It's whatever's maybe more interesting to people.
I think Ring's temperament is like the for known is forewarned, and so like I think he would definitely be asking the seer for more information.
Wait, no, I'm back.
There you go, you're back. Yeah, so I think for Ring, forewarned is forearmed, and so he would be pinging the seeker or the with questions.
Cool, yeah. So it'll give you this lowdown on the sleeper, which I'm just going to use via the thing. So no, wait, yeah, no, it's further up. So the sleeper tells you has a name within the terminal, Be Moody, but their secret name is Atalanta. They're an amateur runner who recently quit due to transphobia. They spend their days working in a bar. They spend their nights running to try and clear their head until they're exhausted. They return to their home where they live alone and tell themselves truths in the mirror until they fall asleep exhausted. You are probably going to need to learn more about this person who goes by the sort of secret name Atalanta. And you know that she's plugged into ttrpg.link XML, which is a sort of harsh utilitarian school, connected messy highways and a map of trans. You know, it's a city where she has disappeared in. Her reputations, at least to people who know her, is lonely, choleric, and empathetic. So does anyone have any last requests or questions from the seer before, you know, she steps out on the road and goes back to her metal detecting for now?
Bagworm Goliath, you got anything?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
So yeah, she'll step out by opening the door and forcing you to break because the door is open, and then just goes like, I'm sure you'll do... Oh, she'll say like, I know you'll do the best you can.
Always do.
And to be honest, I think I'd have known that even if I couldn't see the future. Good luck, though. So the way of exiting the terminal, you'll probably get a message over the radio of Marin being like, so, how's everything going?
It's going.
You need an exit?
Yep.
So, yeah, she'll go like, okay, look into your sideways mirrors. If you look into, them, they start to sort of wobble and change, and then it almost pulls you back out, your mind through the mirror, and you're back in the mind dock in the wake. Appearance changed. Probably always feels, I reckon, physically exhausting, just the act of exiting.
Mm-hmm.
And you have now been given this important purpose to head over. So, ttrpg.link.xml, the plugin point for that, the mind dock for it, is you can find on Port Lush, which is another island part of the terminal. Let me just find a description. So inland from Port Lush is where a lot of like sleepers are held in storage. It's an area frequently fought over by pirates and robots, and frequently changes hands in a cyclical conflict. You know, the pirates seize the island in daring raids, freeing as many sleepers as they can before robot reinforcements drive them off and replenish population from anyone captured. And is scarred by this signs of repeated brutal and bloody battle. You'll need to sail there. Now this is where I give you another sort of out of count and completely screwed up my ability to say words there. Another sort of stepping back question. Because like I said, it's a cyclical conflict, I can say, yeah, some pirates have recently captured this. We go there, we plug in, and we're spending more time in the terminal. Could say, actually, it's currently held by robots. You can get some pirate reinforcements, and we do a challenge about, you know, capturing this port. What feels like it's more interesting to people?
I would think the challenge to capture the port seems more interesting.
Yeah, I like that.
Sounds good.
Awesome. So yeah, setting sail in the Smoker's Jewel. Could someone give me 2d6?
I got it. You want the total?
No, the individual numbers.
3 and 2.
3. Ooh. So that first one was me deciding what the weather forecast is. 3 is actually under fair weather. So yeah, Ring would be sort of piloting the ship along with probably some help from Marin, the rest of you making sure things are working. And one thing you pass is the shipwreck of a pirate hovercraft. Dashed on rocks, maybe, or it looks like it could have ran into encounters by sort of enemy ships. What do you look for when you see like a downed shipwreck? You know, especially if you recognize it's a pirate one.
See if there's anyone moving there. See
Yeah.
if there's anyone, any humans moving on it, and see if there's any robots watching or anyone nearby.
Okay. There's no robots, though, to be honest, it's hard to tell with humans. One of you would probably need to, like, you know, take a closer look and try and sort of board the shipwreck.
Yeah, I could do that.
Yeah, I sight up alongside the wreckage, you know, close enough to make it reasonable for somebody to scamper over.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, so
that sounds like a Goliath thing.
It's not so this shipwreck is probably, it's not like sinking further. It does look like it's sort of like crashed around. You can see sort of busted wires or stuff. It looks like it did take a lot of cannon fire, but also maybe it was a case of took a bunch of cannon fire, escaped a battle, crashed, like died on its own way there. There's no sort of signs of either survivors or remnants there. You can see sort of like black box notes. You're all like fairly fresh faced, so you probably don't recognize who this ship belongs to, I would say, unless anyone wants to make a case there. So you could probably take the black box out and you might be able to find out, you know, in theory down the line, is this a bunch of people who tragically perished, or if they maybe escaped and made it back and you've just sort of retrieved some things. So what I'd say is you can probably find some left behind weapons, like, you know, you could essentially raid a comrade's down ship to get some extra weapons and resources, if you feel comfortable doing such a thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do have connected as one of my backgrounds, so if this is which is, I think, more about social connection. So this is a well-known individual, or if there's an insignia of theirs, then my character might know who it is, but that would be the only rationale I would have for knowing.
Yeah, I'd say you recognize the way the colors of it probably mean it was a ship that has sort of loose alignment with the faction Red Sky at Morning,
okay,
who are people who are a bit sort of distrustful of people like the Seer, who are programs, and a bit distrustful of this idea of the Omen and whether that is a good thing or whether that is ultimately sort of a robot ploy. You recognize that just by the colors. You don't recognize the specifics of the insignia, but a lot of people go there. It's not a well-known ship, but it is a ship that you have an idea of, like, oh, you're aligned to, you know,
Gotcha. These
people are your mates.
Cool.
So heading back to sort of the Smoker's Jewel, setting further sort of sail. And this is a question, do any of you have pirate contacts specifically who it might be useful for me to know about at this point?
Let me see who all I grabbed.
I served under Captain Albatross.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, it is a retired captain. So yeah, Albatross was the navigator for the last Omen. So it's over 100 years old, and it now spends most of its time on shore. Anyone else serve under a previous captain or rescued by another pirate or something?
For my final contact based off the Outlook, I took Captain Ariadne.
Cool. Yeah, so basically it's just a case of, I'm going to suggest that because this is a big sort of tackling and trying to capture a port, you can likely find another ship already sort of like close by in the area. If you radio them out, they are likely to listen. Ariadne, her ship is the Savior's Lament, a small and maneuverable hovercraft. It's often good for avoiding detection until it's too late. Waves a black flag bearing a crying skull. She put out a radio broadcast, considering you know Ariadne, she's probably in the area and would likely be willing to, you know, have a bash at capturing Port Lush, because most pirates are always kind of down to have a bash at capturing Port Lush.
I ain't got no captains.
So yeah, do you want to put in a call to Ariadne?
Absolutely.
Cool. So she'll probably arrive. Maybe you're probably closer. So let's head there. Probably on the shores, you can see some like large sort of looming robots, big tripods with circular sort of things and weapons, as well as maybe some sort of like snaking things and other sort of almost like dog-like creatures. What is your opening move? Are you like, we're going into port, we're going on land, we're hitting, we're whacking? Or do you think you're going to try and lead with having maybe the ship blast some cannon fire?
Say one more time.
Do you think you're going to first try attacking from the ship itself? Or do you think you're going to lead to landing and getting down on foot and engaging there?
I mean, I think my initial play would be we go in directly while the captain tries to bombard and soften things up, basically attacking from two different points.
Yeah, Goliath is all about going in and taking an axe to some robots.
Nice. So yeah, I reckon, fire from sort of the Savior's Lament, who can come to sort of back you up. We'll take out some of the bigger robots. And then there's a few sort of like snake-like sidewinders which are coming up to you. Who would like to take the challenge to defeat some of these robots and clear a path to the mind dock?
So that sounds like a Goliath thing.
Yep, definitely on that.
So let me get that for myself, the process for how a challenge works. And also this is something that is in the demo, which I mainly called a demo because it sounded digital, even though it's really more of like a preview. I don't refer to it as a quick start because it's not, it's more about like preview pages and example of play. But yeah, so this we're going to play as a challenge. It's not a whole showdown. It's a case of, if we do this, we get through and we're able to get into that mind dock. And also we might gain showdown tokens, which are going to help us when it comes to the sort of final confrontation in this. So I would say consequences here, in terms of if this goes wrong, this is all about the fact that, like, they already have an idea of there is a sleeper being watched. We're a bit worried about this because of these facts. They'll have much more of an idea of you're coming, you're on the way there, if either this is a loss or goes sort of south. But otherwise, it's a case of you smash through them and we can get to plugging in. So we build a dice pool for this and then go down the list. So do you have a piece of equipment that will help you in this situation? I imagine you have a weapon of some kind.
Yep, I've got my sonic blunderbuss and a boarding axe.
Hell yeah. Yes, so Sonic Blunderbuss can work. A reputation that will help you in this situation.
I mean, hardy and observant, I think, might combine up. Like, just happy to rush in.
I can invoke hardy. You're going in. You've got like a big weapon. So yeah, hardy. So that's 2d6 so far. Are you putting yourself at risk to succeed? So if you are, and explain how, you can gain a d6 for that. But if you fail, the threat for this will get sort of what?
Excellent. Yeah. Goliath goes in. I didn't say my my look in the wake here, but I'm like bare-chested, pirate pants, big boots, just like gleefully wading in. Basically more happy to fight than to be cautious about it. So yeah, just doing it for the love of smashing up some robots. Definitely dangerous for me.
That makes sense. If an ally puts themselves in danger to help you, you can gain another d6. They'll just also be liable for any sort of backlash. We're up to 3 already. So does an ally want to put themselves in danger? Either Bagwell or Ring.
I mean, we're all doing this. I think normally, we let Goliath take the lead. But I also know we're trying to do this as quickly as possible. So I think I'm happy to put myself at danger by creating a bit of a like, let me try to talk to this robot while Goliath gets in position, making myself the primary focus before he actually attacks.
Okay, yeah, acts as distraction, yeah, and that does definitely open you up to risk if it goes wrong. What are your reputations against? You had Hearty, Observant, and what was the third?
Smooth.
Smooth.
Yeah.
So the way the game works is you can lose D6 as well if you have a reputation that will hinder you. It can open up like new opportunities as well. I don't think either Smooth or Observant are drawbacks, so I don't think you lose a D6 here. Is this task unusually dangerous or challenging? We've established that this is kind of a cyclical conflict that the pirates do a lot, so this is actually probably in the realm of conventional. I would not say it's more dangerous than any regular thing. And you are not alone, so you are rolling 4d6, which is a very... which is much higher than most challenges are, I will say, than you're usually going to get. But you're very much perfect for this exact thing.
All right. Let's see.
So roll 46 and tell me the highest result.
Highest one is a 5.
5, cool. So 5 or 6, that is a success. So tell me how you tear apart these like free snaking robots that are all approaching you. Ringers were acted as a distraction already as well. What goes down?
Yeah, I think he's just, kind of after Ring kind of draws over here, just coming at the side, and like I think Goliath's standard moves is kind of like run in, just like yelling, hitting him with a blunderbuss, and then like jumping into the axe where the hit was, and probably like at that point just reaching in and pulling things apart bare-handed. That part probably isn't as effective, but he just loves doing it.
Nice, awesome. Yeah, they're shred apart. You've cleared away. Probably, I reckon the robot authority was hoping that stuff at Port Lush would slow you down. You've not. So you've got a showdown token for when we eventually face down on this, because you are being fast, and speed often matters in this case. You can head on through to Mine Dock. You can see sort of where this Sleeper B. Moody's body is. And Marin can get you set up to plug into this new domain. And while that happens, she'll give you some sort of, essentially recaps here. It's like, okay, so we know they're observed. We know about them and about their life and stuff. Main thing is to try and make contact and get them out, but also we should probably see if they've been bugged in any way. Everyone ready to jump?
Never been more ready.
Hell yeah!
I guess.
Not beat up my voice for Marin. I feel like maybe always player is annoying, which is maybe a bit harsh. But yeah, so once again, it's that same thing of that drop, that deja vu, that scratch in the back of your mind, and then you're in. Instead of some lonely highway, you were in a busy city, the kind of city where someone could disappear and no one would notice or care. What do you think would be your first move? You've got to sleep for debris and not so much time to do it.
Let's see. We know that they were a runner. We know that they run at night.
Is it day or night when we jump in?
I reckon it's night. But I just reckon it's usually night.
I
reckon it's night for the only reason of aesthetically.
Yeah. Just out of curiosity, I love that there are actually like the different location aspect is super interesting. I want to talk about it a little bit more afterwards. Is this city like the city thing where like is this a place we would have been before or we were at when we were sleepers, or are there multiple separate program locations that you may or may not have been at, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, so it's like the terminal is interconnected. It's a series of sort of interconnected domains. So you may have spent time in one of them. You may not exactly. It may not have been this city, but it may have been a city very like it. But yeah, this could be a place where you have, contacts of people who are asleep and not necessarily able to be convinced to wake up, but also can help you out if they know some stuff. If you want to establish you may know any people still, especially considering you're all quite sort of, you know, fresh out the screen. That's the line.
Yeah, I actually so one of my contacts is the wizard. The wizard holds the power of recognition, so it can reveal what's already present and read people programs effortlessly. I basically they seem like they are largely just they're a watcher. So I do want to see if they are aware. Reach out to them to see if they are aware of anyone of the other programs looking for this person and where they are looking and watching this person.
Awesome. Yeah. So wizard can often be found sort of like in nightclubs or stuff. The wizard once had a purpose, and then someone were like, well, we have a computer who does precognition. Your ability to see what's already there is not actually that cool. We're going to delete you. And the wizard was like, ooh, but I like being alive. So they hit the bricks. So they can often be found sort of like lurking in nightclubs or other stuff, sort of performing tricks for people. So if you head into a nightclub, you know, I'm imagining a sort of, you can probably find the wizard. They're wearing sort of like a weird, very multicolored coat. For some reason, I've always imagined the coat the wizard wears as like Colin Baker's Sixth Doctor outfit. I have no idea if that means anything to anyone. But...
Oh yeah,
no, it's very
okay.
good.
Yeah, that's how I imagine the wizard.
Oh, that's great.
How do you greet this old friend?
I mean, we certainly don't. I wait until like they need a volunteer, and then I just step forward before they call anybody, so that they realize we're here. We're certainly not going to interrupt the act. We play along. We're in a rush, but you know, you don't want to be rude when you're trying to ask for something. So we wait, make sure they know we're here, and then wait till the show is over to approach them.
Yeah, and then afterwards, like ring a ding ding, my good friend, how are you?
We're doing well. We could use your help, though. I know that you keep your ear to the ground and are quite in the know about what's happening right now. And we are looking for information about where other people are looking.
Yeah, no, I mean, I always want to keep an eye out on where people's eyes are, because if their eyes are pointed at me, that's bad news for me.
Indeed. And so I'll you know, let him know that we're looking for was it Atlanta or was it Atlanta?
Atalanta was like a secret name,
okay.
so
that we're looking for Atlanta, and that speed is quite important.
Right. Let me see. And the wizard like sort of like holds their like hands up, and their eyes are sort of going then like sort of cycle through maybe like 7 or so different colors, almost like a millisecond, and are like, oh, get it now. Yes. Very watched. Very, very watched. Special agents been looking at them. They were asking about her at a job. You know, they've not planted any bugs yet, but well, wait. I can't tell. That's weird. Usually I can tell. Nothing's been planted recently, but she is being watched. She's looking for something as well. She's looking for a reason to keep going. Maybe you could give her one.
So I think we make a little bit of small talk before we break off with the wizard. So he said he knows that they are being watched. Can't tell exactly where.
Have probably not been bugged. Wizard also, actually, I will say, will just tell you where that her apartment is as well.
There we go.
That's a useful thing that it would make sense to have. Tell you where her apartment is. Where's like the shitty cafe she works. And we'll say, I tell you where she runs, but it's different every night.
So we know cafe that she at least leaves and comes back to the same apartment while running through the night. And kind of know the general, and that while she's being watched, she hasn't been bugged, correct?
Yeah, at least the wizard said that, then said they couldn't tell, and when she's not been bugged recently.
Okay.
Was the strange clarification.
Okay.
So, do you have an idea of sort of? So, Marin will probably pipe in with some suggestions here, and we'll just say, you know, we've got a lot of information on her. We could look up more. We know what she's being watched, but she's probably going to suggest over the radio, like, it might be time to try and make contact.
Yeah, I could use a coffee. I miss that.
Good cup of Joe sounds real good right now.
Exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, so time can work a bit differently in the terminal, and not just for narrative convenience, but like, let's imagine it's sort of, you know, the way sort of things leave from dreams to reality, and you're never entirely sure which has happened with soon enough time, in an amount of time that doesn't make sense. You can find it sort of daytime, and we can imagine that Atalanta, or under the name she's sort of legally known as B. Moody, will be at work, and you can head to this coffee shop. I feel I should give it like a silly name, like a sort of yeah, let's say she goes to her coffee shop, which you know is called Don't Even Talk to Me.
Big neon sign that says Rise and Grind in the back.
Yeah. So she's probably behind the bar, like not behind the bar. Well, actually, no, you still say bar because it's like a selling place, but it's behind a counter. Counters the what? Preparing stuff. It's busy-ish. It's not busy rammed. So what is anyone's tactic here? Is anyone more the sort of, yes, I'm the member of the crew who talks to people and helps them out here? Is that a thing that any of you consider within your skill set?
My backgrounds are connected, curious, and charming. So yes, I do think.
I think that's you.
I do think that is me. So yeah, I'll walk up and place an order. And I'm gonna place an order. And anybody who's worked at a coffee shop will immediately understand this, and people who haven't won't. That is the precise level of complication that lets them know you're somebody who enjoys coffee without being any further than it needs to be, so that you don't create too many requests that just make you absolute pain in the ass. And so one of those very specific but still easy to achieve orders. And so and then just, make a little small talk about how are the pastries. Really just trying to draw out, like, what is the mood of this individual in front of me right now as they work this job that is a job I have thoroughly enjoyed as somebody who's spent 15 years in the coffee industry, but is also can be soul draining and not what people want it to be at all. So yeah, just trying to take in a little bit of the sense of their temperament in this moment about their job.
She's talking, like, responding to you, like, yeah, that makes sense. And like, I think the thing that maybe comes across is that she should be trying to, like, mask how just beaten down she feels by, like, life. It's not necessarily like she hates this job. She doesn't mind this job. She just hates everything else about how things have gone. And it's a thing of she should be trying to put on a brave face, but, like, can't even manage this thing of, like, yep, hey, it's just like, yeah, no, the pastries are nice. I like the pastries. They're good. Yeah, please. buy a pastry and don't. I don't know if I can explain more. Like, you sort of get the sense if you were a prick, like she may be like at the verge of like walking out of the shop just because of not
Right.
being able to handle the basics of it. Like, not the basics, not even being able to handle like just that point of contact.
You open this morning?
Yeah, I was on opening. I don't have to close at least.
You open to close a lot?
Sometimes, you know, today I'm getting relieved, but yeah, a lot, you know. Not every, like, staff numbers aren't always great, and you know, we're not exactly the weirdest time.
You at least get a break?
I'll go for lunch. Well, actually, no, I mean, there's all the time I get a break. If it's just one through, no, not really, unless I ask someone to take me while I smoke. Sorry, I don't know why I'm answering this.
No, that's fine. I mean, have you had a cup yet?
It's almost laugh staring. It's a genuine laugh, but also it's a laugh of pain, and then I just hold up like 4 fingers.
Yeah, but I mean, there's drinking a cup of coffee, but then there's drinking a cup. Pour yourself a cup real quick.
I look hesitant for a bit, but honestly, it's sort of like this was plausibly gonna be her last day, just on the basis of like, yeah, if the customer's bad, like she's at a breaking point. So yeah, just does start pouring herself a cup at a more sort of leisurely pace.
So I have her take and as far as she will go into this, I will go into this. But if she starts pushing back at a certain point, I'll re-encourage her and like basically just walk through the sensory experience of like drinking a cup of coffee, ignoring the probably now couple people in line behind us, like essentially encourage her to like smell it, taste it, and then throw out just. But the weirdest thing about any of this is that it's almost like none of it is even there.
Yeah, this is very good. I think this is going to be a challenge,
Okay.
because you're really trying to form this moment of connection. I think I'm going to have you roll a challenge to decide how she reacts to that, whether
Sure.
because you've said something that makes so much sense that she like absolutely goes along with that. It's that last thing. It's either going to feel to her like a moment of connection, or it's going to spook her. She's like, nope, I don't actually want to be seen by this person who is just talking to me at work. I don't want that connection. Or she's going to go, yes. So that's going to be a challenge. So I'm going to scroll back to the challenge bit because I don't have a good memory. So a piece of equipment that will help you in this situation.
I mean, I was using the coffee hoping to get the equipment bonus, but I don't know if it works or not.
That was my instinct, and sometimes I worry I'm too generous, but given you were going for that, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, a reputation, you're charming.
Yep.
You're not really putting yourself at risk here, unless you've got a argument for it, like nothing on the surface.
No, I mean, I do have a thing in my backstory that I could try to trigger, but I don't think I'm doing it right now.
Yeah, so that's a 2 so far. An ally is not really putting himself in danger here for you.
No.
What if Goliath jumped behind the counter to help out with the line that's building up, so she doesn't have to worry as much?
Pillar wouldn't still be danger is the only thing.
Yeah.
But yeah. What are your other reputations other than charming?
I have connected and curious.
I don't think either of those hinder you. I could make an argument for curious, maybe, if it's like too curious, but I could see that hindering you some other time, but maybe not now.
Right.
This task is it unusually dangerous or challenging? It's not dangerous, that's the thing. Like the worst case scenario of her being spooked is it is much harder to make a connection, and it's gonna go wrong. Like, this is not exactly a one and done, but if this fucks up and she's scared, you're kind of no longer a person who can necessarily make this contact.
I also don't know that I was trying to lead it to dangerous, but I don't know how challenging it is to essentially be like, hey, I want to create a moment of connection that convinces you the entire world around you is ones and zeros, and that you're in a giant simulation. I don't know how challenging that is or not. It seems like it's a normal thing that we do. I don't know if this is a normal way to do it or not.
That's true. In the interest of leaving you at 2 rather than 1, because 2 is it's a better one than 1, I'm going to say no. I don't think it is. I think you are used to this. Okay. Last one is you lose a d6 if you are alone from the crew. Do you think the rest of you are here just in case anything, like if an agent shows up or something? Yeah. So yeah, you've probably got that backup. So roll 2d6 and give me the highest result.
I got a 3 and a 6.
Nice. 3 and a 6. Cool. That's 6 is exactly what we need. And she looks at you as you say, it almost feels like it doesn't feel real, and it's just like, yeah, everything. I can feel it so much, and yet it tastes wrong or fits wrong. But I don't really know what to do about that.
Wow.
And if you make an offer to her to be like, I can show you more, she'll listen.
And I think it's like, and I think, which is good, I rolled well. I think I say things like, some people, try long runs at night to try to just get out of their, the other people will stare at the mirror and try to speak uncomfortable truths until something happens. Just like name the things the seer told us that she specifically does. But we've found another way if you're interested in that.
So
he says, trying to be as non-culty as possible.
Yeah, she's aware that this sounds on the surface fucked, but also she's also maybe someone who is. Oh, sorry, I should have checked whether we can swear on.
Yeah, you're good.
She's aware on the surface how sort of suspicious that could sound, but also is at this breaking point, and you did just do it. She's like, you're either a cultist or exactly what I've been looking for. And if you're a cultist, hopefully you'll just kill me quickly. And she'll agree to meet you later. She does need to finish her shift.
I like how we're like, reality's facade, but also don't leave your shift early.
I think saying to her,
you got 100%. You got to know how far you can push people and then not push them any further. And so 100%. Let her finish her shift.
Cool. So I would say at this point in time, we probably have around 3 showdown tokens. We got a speedy one. I'm gonna say calling on that wizard contact. We didn't roll for it, but I think that does make sense as a showdown token. We've so far done quite well, really. So in terms of, let me explain a bit about how the waking up process works, because that may give an idea of what we want to do from the thing. I'll just read from the game. When a sleeper becomes restless, it starts with a sense of unease and malaise, a feeling like the world doesn't just sit right in your skin, a fever that won't break. Some people begin to see things, deja vu, out-of-body experience, things fraying or being replaced before you can forget how long they've been there. Come dreams, signs of the world as it really is, voices from beyond, a door only you can open. A pirate guide will make this process easier, the aid of someone who already learned the terminal, leaving what the terminal is, leaving breadcrumbs to guide your path through the labyrinth. Once you make contact, the process involves rendering a sleeper into a deep, lucid dream, and then thanks to your navigator outside, you can jump into those dreams. Inside the mind, you can find and remove any bugs or malware, things that are sort of planted by the terminal to stop waking or sabotaging. We know, thanks to the wizard, that Atalanta hasn't been
bugged recently.
Dreams are strange places, and logic and sense have little place there. Pirates may assist the sleeper in their waking, but they can't make final decision to cross the threshold for them. Once the door out is formed, the sleeper is the one who has to open it to reach the wake. Your hacking will help Marin in the real world locate where the body is, can take them out from the suspended sort of water tank, and then aboard the ship will help sort of heal things up. So you plausibly have a base, or you plausibly are going to her apartment to suggest, hey, we want to fall asleep and we jump into your dreams. What do you think you go for? 1-to-1?
It's a great question. Say the options one more time for me.
So I think we can presume, because you do plug in a lot, you can find empty locations or safe houses or things. Or actually, I think that's the thing. You can either try and convince her to do this at her apartment, which I think may... Basically, in that one, we'll role play out and see how much I think you can convince her. Or you can find a safe house to do it, but I'm going to say you have to roll this as a challenge, because you're looking for a place to run this out of safely. But also, I'll say she's probably just going to be more willing to go along with it if she's not having, strangers in her flat.
Yeah, I mean, I think strangers in a flat seems like a lot.
Yeah.
Is there a safe house that we can find that is near a popular running track? Like a place she may have frequented that therefore will feel like, oh, yeah, I've been near that building a lot, that old nondescript whatever. Like, I think
probably like some. So yeah, what I would say is this is probably a challenge in terms of like hitting the streets, maybe looking around running spots, maybe checking out sort of warehouses and stuff to see that. Who do you think is your best sort of, tracker finder in the crew? I suppose also it maybe might make sense for Bagworm to roll the challenge, because
I was gonna say I want to make sure Daniel gets a scene, so I don't know if this is one that interests you or not, but
absolutely.
Okay.
So yeah, what is your approach to hitting the streets and trying to find somewhere where you can run an escape route out of?
I think mostly looking for something that is unassuming and kind of often a quieter place, and just kind of almost cold calling and being like, okay, this looks like it's a great place, let's knock on the door and see if anyone's here.
Awesome. Yeah. So do you have any equipment that helps you out on this, you think?
I don't think I do.
One thing with terminal equipment is, because you don't necessarily have it by default, you could ask Marin in the real world to like mod something in for you. This is like a slower paced one, so you've got time. It's the kind of thing you probably couldn't do it before a fight. You probably can do it if the thing you're doing is looking around places. But you do need to think of an idea of
I need lots of yellow pages.
Yellow pages for sure. A smartphone with a Zillow app to find apartments that are vacant.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, Marin can mod you in a smartphone, definitely. And just be like, okay, this is kind of crazy, because like we don't have smartphones in the wake, and I've never seen one. And I only see the code, but you tell me, and I see it. And this is Marin just coming through the sort of speaker on the thing. And so you're like, which reputation? Do you have a reputation that will help you?
I think my slick reputation might be the most helpful one here.
Yeah, makes sense. I can say we're at 2 so far. Are you putting yourself at risk at all for this? My gut says no, but
I don't think so.
An ally is also, if you're not in danger, I feel like your ally isn't in, and no allies are in danger.
Yeah.
So that's also still 2. What are your reputations in full? So you've got slick, and then what are the other 2?
Fearless and unimpressed.
Unimpressed, fearless. I don't think either of those hinder you, unless you think they can think of a way. Is it unusually dangerous or challenging? Like I said, this is a city where people disappear. That does, I think, mean that this stuff just happens a lot. Are you doing this by yourself? Is a question though.
I think so. I think I'm kind of scouting ahead to try and find something while the others keep an eye on her and make sure everything is doing all right.
So it's going to be 1d6. What I'll say is, if this is a failure, I think that in terms of interest, it's not necessarily going to be you don't find somewhere. It's just going to be a place you find maybe quite compromised. And it's the same case if it's partial success. We're going to find a place and it's like empty now, but you've actually maybe got a bit of a clock on this before agents are busting it down. So just rolling 1d6.
All right. That's a 6.
Nice.
I was harsher with like taking away there because I was like, oh, I do need to show that this isn't always a game you succeed. Absolutely nailed it. You find this fucking like warehouse that is probably primed for demolition. You know, I reckon this area near where Atalanta runs is getting gentrified to hell. This is a warehouse. It's empty now. No one's going to be around there tonight. It's very easy to sneak in and set up any sort of equipment that you need. And yeah, so it's completely empty, not going to be bothered. And you've managed to find that without arousing some detection. So you get sort of set up there. Marin can sort of mod in a bed so that the sleep can sort of occur, and will also mod in some sort of essentially like deep sleeping pills that Atalanta can take when it's time. You presumably get a message to her somehow, either maybe just dropping back off at the coffee stop saying like, hey, meet us here at this time. Do you prepare to see her? Do you make a grand show of it? Or are you trying to actually be as normal looking as possible?
Hey, gotta go grand show. It's just, you know, I was a performer before in my sleeping life. I think that would carry over and try and make it as grandiose as possible, to be like, this is a huge step that you're about to take and we're going to celebrate it.
Yeah, Atalanta will walk through your door. What does she see there? Is it the three of you?
Mm-hmm.
What's the first thing you say to her? Is it that this is a huge step? Or
yeah, I think it's listen, you're about to embark on an incredible journey that's going to be the most important thing you've ever done in your life. And I'm so proud of you for making the right step.
so what is it? I go to sleep. I wake up somewhere else. Hopefully with both kidneys still intact.
That's the long and short of it.
We've never taken kidneys.
Come on, like, where are you from? Can you tell me what this is? Why the world feels wrong to me?
Because it is wrong.
But I feel like no one can explain it.
It's not something you can explain. It's something you have to experience. You try to call it describing colors to someone who's colorblind. They can understand intellectually, but you gotta, you have to put your body into it. You have to feel what it's like when you're running and you get those endorphins going. You can't tell someone else and have them understand what that feels like. You have to be there yourself.
Yeah. I guess it's time to feel something real. So yeah, it's just a sleepy guilt ride. And then Marin will manage your sort of like jump into dream. It works similarly, like it's like burrowing down almost to another level.
I knew we were gonna get Matrix vibes. I knew we were gonna get Black Sails vibes. I didn't know we were also gonna get Inception vibes, and I'm very excited about it.
Oh, I should add that probably to the inspirations list. I don't think it's on there technically. So it is almost the way I imagine this is it's that similar thing of like you looking down, world shifting around. It's like a vertigo effect. It's the pan zoom, it's a dizziness, and then you are in. So yeah, I actually can someone.
I also will say I conceptually love this a whole lot more as a here's how you wake up from reality concept, because it is about folding back into your consciousness and then essentially redirecting that somewhere else, as opposed to, oh, your body's just freaking out and we can figure out where that is real quick, hopefully.
Yeah.
Either way, I super enjoy this narrative piece.
Oh
yeah. It was probably also a thing of early on. I was like, so what is my equivalent to red pill or blue pill? And that is obviously a very sort of it's no longer a neutral thing to just riff on that.
Right.
Full stop. Was part of moving away from it. Also, I was like, this is super Matrix inspired. Everyone knows that, it's very obvious. But there are certain things where I didn't just want to be like, yeah. Here's your green pill, purple pill, because I'm just really shaving those numbers off. I didn't want to come up with something that felt different. So give me a D6.
6.
6. Okay. So there's probably going to be a challenge here. You jump into these dreams, and where you are is in a sort of hall of mirrors. Has anyone seen Enter the Dragon?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm imagining sort of end climax of Enter the Dragon. Every sort of reflection there. And the thing is, every reflection is Atalanta, except they are not always as she actually is. Some are grotesquely sort of, an emphasis of features she hates about herself, like really emphasized. Some are like dressed in ways which would make her feel like really shitty because it's just maybe dressed in a very sort of conformist, normal way. Some, it's more about the expression she has that makes her just feel awful, of like, oh yeah, this is a person who is crying and is being seen crying rather than being able to convey any kind of strength. Some are things of like, oh yeah, this is Atalanta, 40 years older, still in the exact same place in life. Some are like Atalanta injured and she won't be able to run anymore. It's a lot of sort of nightmares and things. One of these may be real. You're semi-experienced dream hoppers. So I'd like you to make a challenge to actually try and reach out and find the real Atalanta. How do you think, does anyone have an idea of how they would try and break through this sort of hall of mirrors? And then I'll have that person do a challenge rather than electing the other way around.
Goliath has a strategy, but I don't think it's the one we want to do.
Just smashing mirrors. I do kind of love that. Well, let's talk through it, because mine would be like, so like my background, hotel concierge, is about knowing what people want or how they perceive themselves and how those meet their wants. So I could lean that angle. I actually think that in this particular setting, that feels weirder than here's a bunch of mirrors of false selves. We got to smash the shit out of some of this stuff. Doesn't feel wrong and feels more normal given the fiction in front of us right now.
Yeah, I am down to go smashing if you want, Mark.
Yeah, I'm down for that.
So, what are your reputations again? You've used Hardy already, right? What are your other two?
Observant and smooth.
So I think I would say there's an argument to be made here for observant, because you are looking at the things which are wrong. And it's worth noting, Atalanta in her dream is not necessarily going to look exactly like she did in the real world, by which you mean the terminal, which is real. She's going to look a bit more idolized. So there's the observant thing of you being able to tell, like, to not smash a mirror that has the actual person you're in.
Yeah,
say
and as someone
observing.
who was an athlete in the sleeping world, maybe I have some like empathetic
Oh, I
connection
love
to be
that.
like, oh yeah, like that would also be bad for me, or I understand what that would be like.
Yeah, I imagine there's no equipment. I can't even think of one modded in that might be helpful. Unless you have any ideas, I'm open to them. So
Yeah, I don't think so.
nothing for equipment gained. Are you putting yourself at risk here?
That's a really good question. I don't feel like I am, but I could see where I might.
I think here's a good question, like just to talk about, just from a design perspective. Is this a question of player, you just tell me how this is dangerous for you, or are there other conceits? Because like I mean, conceptually, is there something that you could find yourself kind of trapped in one of these reflections? Like, is it something? Is this a moment for Kayla? Like, is this a moment where players can like propose, here's weird shit that can happen in the fiction, or is this about an absolute fictional state?
Oh,
I think maybe I haven't introed that question enough. This is an opportunity for you to get a dice if you want to propose something that puts you at risk. There's always the fact that failure is worse if you're doing this, but yeah, it's your chance to say, I smash all these mirrors and the dream fights back and sends shards of glass at me if you wanted.
Do we see ourselves in these mirrors as well, or just Atlanta?
No, but some of the reflections of Atalanta move the way you move.
Yeah, exactly. I think maybe some of them are not actually Atlanta. Some of them are reflections of ourselves, seen like what she has seen of us. And if I hit those the wrong way, that could chip away at who I am, which is dangerous when you're plugged in.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. So yeah, that could result in some like personal harm to you. I reckon this is maybe the way this could go wrong. So you're at risk. Is an ally putting themselves in danger? This is another thing of like, this is another space where it's like, Tony or Daniel, if either of you are like, oh yeah, my character will do this and that will help out, that's an opportunity. It's also a thing of you expose yourself to the same consequences as Goliath if things go wrong.
Yeah. I'm not putting myself in danger on this one.
Yeah, I don't think I am either.
Cool. No worries. So yeah, we've gained 2 off of this. Your other, so neither Smooth nor Hardy feel like they hinder you, though. I'd also say, so hindering is actually another one where the way this works is you lose D6 if you have a reputation that will hinder you. But if you succeed in spite of this reputation hindering you, you'll gain tokens for succeeding. So it is another chance if you could argue how it hinders you. I'd say from a GM perspective, you've gained like 3 showdown tokens already. You'll get a 4th if you manage this here. I think going to 5, you could totally do it, but you're already actually in a good position. So I wouldn't lose the dice if I were you. But it's your call.
I can't think of a way that would hinder me.
Cool. This task is unusually dangerous or challenging. I'd suggest no on the basis of, I mean, dreams are always unusual, but I don't know if it's unusually dangerous or unusually challenging. And you don't face this alone because you are all here together, and you're also trying to reach out for another person. So 2d6, tell me the highest.
2.
No.
Let's do this.
So yeah, I reckon sort of smashing through some of these mirrors, it starts to go sort of positive. A lot of them scream, and you hear audible screams from mirror smash. And then eventually it's almost like 2 mirrors swap themselves, and you smash one, feel like a punch to your gut, feel like yourself sort of like coughing and choking up blood. And a lot of this sort of glasses stuff distorts. This entire dream is now like reconfiguring itself. You've not found Atalanta, but we're going to end up jumping into another sort of area where you're still kind of separated from her. I just need to the dream table. Yes. So someone give me another d6 now, just so I can tell us where the dream forms.
4.
4. Cool, cool, cool. Yeah, so it reforms, and a lot of the glass shards end up like forming as skeletons. And then this films, we're on like a very crowded tram, and we are sort of surrounded by skeletons, and you still can't necessarily see Atalanta. This has gained a bit of threat here. So who now has an idea of how are you finding Atalanta in the dream? How are you reaching out to her and trying to make that connection again?
And what was the new state again?
We are on a crowded tram car full of skeletons.
Cool.
I'm
It's
going
sort
to
of,
yell
I
out.
think the
throw
fear
me
here
a-
is... Oh, sorry.
I was going to make a dumb joke. Keep going.
I was going to say the fear here probably for what this is for Atalanta. She spends, I reckon, 2 hours out of her day on this tram. She probably, she is a newly out trans person looking for customer service work. I reckon in some cases, actually, I don't know why I say I reckon. I know in some cases it's actually quite hard to find jobs while doing that. And so she probably has found one that's far. She probably spends 2 hours out of each day on this tram. And I think sometimes while she's on there, she wonders how much of her life is spent on there. And she imagines aging until she is just a skeleton. And everyone on here is a skeleton because of that.
I'll take a crack at it this time. Let's see. I think my approach is my approach, I think, for this is that I start looking like, are these skeletons differentiated or are they all identical?
They're not identical. Some like sort of discoloration and stuff, differences in sort of height and things. Are you looking for one if one looks like Atalanta's skeleton? Or
Not quite. Generally, I wonder. I mean, yes, but not quite like if she just didn't have meat, what would she look like? Not quite that. More so, this is me like looking for like, yeah, how long has this skeleton been a skeleton? Like, how old is this skeleton? How is the skeleton carrying itself? Like, this is actually me looking at like essentially body language and degradation and almost like in all honesty, like, how comfortable do these skeletons seem in this situation? And the more uncomfortable the skeletons seem with no facial features, I realize that like potentially like those who don't seem like they're comfortable with this situation, because if this is her fear, then she would be potentially behaving in a different way, right? Like, then as opposed to Johnny Business Skeleton, who is just on their way to the Boneworks.
Yeah, there's a lot who are just like, matter of fact, they're holding onto rails, they're maybe reading papers, or they are just sitting perfectly content and comfortable in there. There's one maybe sort of center of a car. Its body language, I imagine, is sort of like holding on to its own bone arm, almost trying to pull its skeleton closer together. And this one, this is maybe a slightly, it's not gory, but it's a bit gruesome. I imagine this one doesn't look dry. It looks like...
It's a fresh skeleton.
Yeah, it looks like the sort of meat has just dropped off of it. That's something you can notice, yeah.
Cool. I overly polite to a bunch of skeletons. I start making my way through the car, like excusing myself as I bump in and through and around them, talking to them as if this is a completely normal thing. And I make my way over to this fresh looking skeleton.
So is the challenge here maybe like just trying to find and identify this and hope that that is her and you can pull her out.
I think that I have a better play for how we get out of this. But yeah, I think it requires us identifying which of these skeletons she is first.
Cool. Yeah. So, what are your reputations that you haven't used yet?
I have not. I think I used Charming last time, so I have Curious and Connected. And Curious is the one I was leaning on here in my way of interrogating the fiction, right? Like, which taking in the different information about them, having weird little skeleton conversations as I make my way through the train. Over to this person to confirm whether or not it is her or not.
Yeah. Once again, probably no useful equipment. Definitely deep in the dreams. Equipment is a bit sort of rendered obsolete. Is there any way you can think of where you're putting yourself at risk here?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I can think of two ways. One which would potentially offer other people risk. One that is a little bit less. So one, the skeletons just get mad. Like, I mean, this becomes a mob of skeletons if we handle this poorly. I think the better one is that the train speeds up and doesn't stop. Like essentially that we blow past whatever the destination is here. Whether or not it's just for me or me in Atlanta, or like I don't, either way is fine. But I think those are the two interesting ones. I think I like more train speeds up, gets wild, blows past a stop.
Track train.
Yeah,
so that works for me. Is an ally willing to put themselves in danger in some way? Or can they think of a way, even?
I can't think of a good way.
Yeah.
Fair. So yeah, we're at 2 gained. Then what's your third reputation again? So we've had Curious
Connected.
and we've had Charming. Connected. I don't think that hinders you in any way. I can't think of. Is this task unusually dangerous or challenging? I'd say once again, no. We're on this thing of like, it's unusual because it's a weird situation, but not necessarily more than something you've done. And you are with each other still here, and you are trying to rely on this connection you have already made. So rolling 2d6.
That's a 1. That's a 5.
5. Okay, 5. This is fixed. So this is a hack of Inevitable by Soul Muppet. The ranges I've just changed slightly because Inevitable is a play to lose game. This is more a play to decide what you're willing to lose. So out of 5, we get this accomplishment. You reach it, you reach the skeleton, and it does look at you. It turns. Most of the other skeletons have not moved at all, but this one does turn, and there's a look of recognition here. Like, this is Atlanta stuck in the stream. So what was your idea for how to pull out from here?
So I looked at the skeleton and I just say, sometimes, essentially like it's not about getting to the right stop. It's about like finding a better way. And I think what I want to do here is essentially like I just wanted to get her off the train regardless of whether it's the right stop or not. Like, right, like the train, like there is this sense of like, hey, we actually, like, if she rides this train to its endpoint, it is the destination, right? Like it's just it's normal everyday, like, everything she would have expected. Like getting off at an earlier stop is something different, and requires you to change and adapt. So I think it literally is, we should get off this train before it gets to its final destination. Is the plan. Like we should chart a new way.
Awesome. Yeah. So I reckon the moment you say this thing of like, it's not always the destination you want to get off at, I imagine in an almost filmic way of a thing of like, it cuts from the skeleton to you, and then when it cuts back, it's Atalanta in the flesh. And even though this isn't how trains work, it feels narratively more interesting to me. I imagine like buses where you get a press for your stop. Just does. Actually, no, this makes sense as a much better way. It just hits the emergency stop, and it pulls into a station somehow. Some of the skeletons creep around, like start looking around, and you can hear, but then they all sort of crumble to dust anyway. We open stop. It's not a station at all. It is just like a street. If you step off of the platform itself, you know, then the moment you're all off of the tram cart, you know, if you were to look around, you would see there was not a thing there anymore.
Mhm.
But what is also there is a chipped wooden door with a stiff handle. The paint is dry and cracked. The door is blocked, though. Outside, from behind this door, steps out someone who looks exactly identical to Atalanta, but different. Like in a similar sort of mirror images we'd had before. This is an Atalanta where there's less the sense of style, where there's less the sense of expression. They're dressed much more conservatively, almost. They're a version of Atalanta who could fit in. And they start to talk to Atalanta, start to say, like, this is a mistake. You are getting way out of yourself over your head. These are untrustworthy people. They don't know how things should be. Things should be this way. You need to accept what you're doing. You need to accept how you do. You need to be able to try and fit in. I can help you do that. This is not a dream. This is a program. It's called the Trojan. It's infiltrated Atalanta's mind long ago. It wasn't planted there recently. For some reason, this was planted like way back. It's disguised itself as a fantasy. As a fantasy that's kind of a self-fating one. The sort of thing of like, oh, why can't I just be normal? The Trojan is why can't I just be normal writ large. She's leaning towards Atalanta. Atalanta pauses for ages and then decks her in the mouth.
Yeah.
And they start struggling and start scrapping. But I'll be honest, it starts to look like Atalanta's going to lose. And one of you needs to intervene here. Now, the seer gave a prophecy saying, you know, when Atalanta wakes up, it's time for someone to walk the path of the omen. You may have made the mistake of assuming that would refer to Atalanta. She's not actually the person who's going to be this new foretold figure, at least not yet in theory. Whoever steps forward to save this restless sleeper will feel a change with their first step, where they will realize that they are stepping into part of this greater tapestry and greater story, and all of the doors in their mind will open, and they will become this iteration's omen. Who would like to step forward, and then I'll explain how the showdown roll works.
I feel like Goliath would be the most sensible one to step in, but I think the least sensible one to start on the path. So if either of y'all want to jump in.
Yeah.
I love the idea of the least sensible one to step on the path being the one to step on the path.
I love that
say
there's
go
a fight,
for it.
and my impulse is to step forward because I'm Goliath. Being the thing that drives this, I think, is way more satisfying than who wants? Yeah, I mean, 100%.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's go.
Awesome. So showdown roll. Basically, this is a different version from it's very different from the challenge roll. Things like our reputations or our equipment are less relevant. This is this sort of big pivotal moment. You've stepped forward. You're here to answer a call, and it's also where I know the thing. The truth is, this is just the Trojan alone because of the preparation you did, because you managed to blow through the robots in Port Lush, because you were able to make that connection strongly, because of how you're able to break down some of the dreams and find this location. These are all your advantages. These have been represented as showdown tokens. We gained 5 showdown tokens, unless I am wrong. We gained
I thought we were.
I think we got 4.
I thought we were at 4, and we were like, I don't know that you need to get to 5.
Yes,
because
but then I think you did gain a showdown token for beating the skeleton car.
Oh, then yes, we were at 5.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Perfect.
so if you are at 5, which is impressive. The threat of the Trojan, this dormant program that's been there all along, started at 8, and because of that failed mirror dream, gained 2 extra threat. That's at threat 10. So you're rolling a single d6 with a +5 bonus at the moment. So you would need at least a 5 or a 6 to equal 10. The other way, though, and this is the other core part of the game, is your showdown tokens, the 1 bonus, and you can also add cost, things you're willing to lose or sacrifice. These could be changes to your reputation. These could be changes to allies you have. It could be rising threat elsewhere, which would connect into a sort of wider campaign thing. Just as a proposal, what are your reputations again? I know I've asked this like 3 times. I don't have a great working memory.
I am hardy, observant, and smooth.
Observant, smooth. So I would say what I might propose here is that you will lose the hardy reputation,
Yeah, that's what I was
and it
thinking.
will be replaced by foolhardy.
Love it. Love it.
So that I would say I'd give that around a sort of +2.
Cool.
So you're rolling.
Yeah.
If that's happening to you, we can bounce around other cost ideas.
I like the idea of something escalating in the outside as well, like when they realize that like maybe the Trojan is like sent off a signal like, oh, like they tripped the omen, like it's time to start getting serious about pushing these folks back.
Yeah, I could offer both of those combined, I think. So that would probably
Okay.
be +3. So we've got +3, +5. We're at a +8.
All right.
Oh, you're good at maths. So you need to beat 10. So you need at least a 2. A 1 will fail you. And I think it's just that. That's sometimes the benefit of this big cost, because yeah, the terminal is going to become immediately aware of the omen. They're going to know it's you.
Yep.
And there are people out there. There are people who have created this Trojan very specifically as a trap.
Yep.
And they're going to start looking into you, and they're going to start looking for revenge.
Nice.
If this all goes well. So give me that single d6. Anything but a 1.
That's a 4.
Yes.
4. What do you do to destroy the Trojan here?
Can you describe a little bit more about like what the fight between them looks like?
They've been sort of scrappling. They've been like trading blows. A lot of the time, the thing is they've just been perfectly matched. Like go for a punch, equal hit. Go for sort of slaps. They're both slapping each other in the face at the same time. They're kicking and they're just catching yourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Then somehow like they were choking, I reckon, each other, rolling, and the Trojan has ended up on top and is actually now beginning to choke the life out of Atalanta.
Nice.
So has a pin down and choked out.
Yeah, I think what like the Trojan is so focused on its task there, it loses track of the rest of us, and I think I just grab its arms from behind and pull it behind its back and kind of stand it up, and tell Atlanta like I can't do this for you. You have to finish it, but I can make it easier for you. And just hold the Trojan while she finishes it off.
Yeah, I reckon like the Trojans arms probably like rip apart almost and are starting to sort of bleed code because you are stronger than you realized before. Mm-hmm. You do feel the fact that something is different from just this act of stepping forward. It's like 1,000 doors have opened in your mind that you didn't even know were there. And then I reckon Atalanta moves in almost like a bell clap around the head of the Trojan and just like hits it and it bursts into code. Nice. The Trojan sort of disperses. You see the code almost like circle and like fly out because programs can't just be permanently killed in that easy way. It's gone from Atalanta's body, and that means she can wake up now. But that Trojan is out there and will also probably want revenge for you having messed up their plan to keep Atalanta trapped.
Excellent.
The door is there now, and it's time for her to step through, where she will wake up in the wake. And Marinus probably already set things up to do that. She was going to turn to you all and go like, I'll see you out there, right? Like,
count on it.
Absolutely.
Thanks. It's like difficult for me to trust people when I feel like everyone's been lying to me all of the time. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
you don't have to trust anyone else. Just trust yourself.
Yeah. Just Thanks for telling me something real. For once. She steps through the door, and her dream ends because she's no longer in the system. Her dream ends, and you also all sort of feel like you're just pulled. It's very painful, I reckon, even more than usual to get pulled out via someone else waking up. But that's what happens. You find yourselves in the wake. Marin is probably going to take you on there. So it's like, so what happened? What's... The seer said it had something to do with the omen, right? Is this happening? They don't want to give like a dramatic final line, I reckon, almost as a cliffhanger.
I mean, it's got to be Goliath.
It's got to be Goliath.
World's changed.
Yeah. Do I see Marin differently at all?
Marin maybe not, but
Mhm.
I reckon, because Marin has no plugins, but I reckon you can see the outline on all of your colleagues, like in terms of like, why is it colleagues? On all of your comrades, like where their plugins work. You can look around and you can probably see like the outlines of different robots which are battling and being destroyed by Atalanta's ship, almost seeing through walls. Like, yeah, your vision has changed dramatically.
And yeah, just like taking a survey of like the horizon almost, and just saying like, I think we've got a lot of work to do now.
Yeah. And then roll credits music. Like,
Come back next
yeah,
summer.
I think like the format of this as a one shot is always cliffhanger, but that's also the format of the Matrix when you think about it. It's that big flying off into the sky moment.
Yep.
I hope everyone had a great time with that.
Yeah,
We did.
For sure. That was great.
Let's do our reaction roll. Reaction roll is a live stream inside of a live stream. It's our chance to sit down with the creator of a game we just played and talk about what it was like to play that game. Today we sat down with Kayla and played. My brain stopped working for a second. Fully and totally. Terminal, which is a Matrix Black Sails, and we found out a little bit of Inception inspired RPG. Kayla, for the folks who are just joining us, why don't you give us a little bit more of the elevator pitch for Terminal?
So yeah, Terminal is the world as you know it, Terminal 21st Century Earth. It's nothing but a lie. It's a simulation called the Terminal, curated and designed by the Robot Authority to keep all of humanity trapped in a sort of monotonous, curated, unsatisfying existence because they think that's the way the world should live. You all play people who have woken up, who have broke through the walls of reality. You, as digital pirates in the wake, in the real world, you sail the seas, you battle killer robots, you plug back into the system and destroy its agents and its architects. And in a wider campaign of the game, you must walk the path of the Omen, because this system, as it increases in instability, it comes closer to a point of crash. This system crash is coming here, and the Omen is the only one who can find a different way. It could spell total disaster, death, and destruction, or it could spell an opportunity to finally break free of the control that people have been living under. That's sort of what it is to play the game, is to walk this path, to face off against major obstacles and major crashes, living viruses, bitter sort of X programs curation, threatening architects, directors, and puppeteers who are going to sort of attempt to blackmail and coerce you into doing what they want, as well as continuing to find out about the sort of deep history of this world, discover connections with your crew, and emerge as the sort of perfect swashbuckling cyberpunk misfit who can shatter nightmares, take back their lives, and crash the world. It's crowdfunding now on terminal.ratwave.uk.
Awesome. Love it. I had a blast playing. Let's find out a little bit more about our other players and what they thought. Let's start with Daniel. Daniel, why don't you tell people who you are, what you do, and what it was like to play Terminal?
Absolutely. So I'm Daniel Spencer. I'm a podcaster, comedian, and musician, as well as avid role-playing gamer. And you can find me on the internet at Dantendo64, basically anywhere where accounts are available. And I absolutely loved this. This was a blast. I really love the challenge mechanic, and the setting is so rich and immersive that it's so easy to just immediately get wrapped up in the world. So I really loved it.
Awesome. I have two questions for you. One, normal one. Do you have any questions for Kayla that you want to ask about the setting or anything?
Yeah, so I guess I think my main question would be, what is your, and this is maybe just a softball question, but it's always one I'm interested in finding out. What is your favorite mechanic in this game?
I love the way like showdowns work, and I love like getting to really sit with them, dig into them. Obviously here we had a one shot, so it's maybe less like consequential things like threat rising on the horizon, but when you're playing in a campaign, I do think it's just super exciting to go like, ooh, I really like this +1 bonus I could get that could really make a difference, but also I don't know if I want to make you know, the archivist more threatening and more eager to kill me and all of my friends. I'm not sure I want to take that chance. Yeah, that's the thing I just love about like these sort of pivotal things. I think it works really well from like structuring sessions too.
Nice.
And this is not a standard question, but it is one that I want to share a little bit about. So I'm going to ask you, is there anything about your character? Because character creation is quick, it's easy. I was like, this seems so familiar, and I didn't realize it was an inevitable hack until you said it, Kayla, because like we played with Jelly like a couple months ago.
Yeah,
and I love how it runs. But is there anything about your character or their backstory that you had in mind off screen that we didn't get a chance to explore?
Oh yeah. So I had been married to Eugenia Duluth, who turned out to be one of the best mobsters in Chicago. And she wound up leaving me when I drew an ultimatum that it was either the mob or me. And so I got into all of this so that I could win her back.
I love that.
So that was my, but I loved creating the character creation, and this was so much fun. It's one of my favorite things in RPGs in general, as I'm sure it comes no surprise to Tony. He knows I love building kooky characters, and this was a lot of fun for the character creation. I really enjoyed it.
And I have a third one just for you. What was your real world character, your sleeper character's name? Did they have a name?
So I actually did not come up with a real world name for him.
So anybody who's watching just now, Dan typically comes up with the most buck wild gonzo names that I absolutely love. And your characters was also too, but it just, with it being like a single word name, like it's a little bit harder to so I didn't know if you had done anything specific along those
in the
lines.
character creation you're supposed to come up with like a sleeper name, but then I encourage you to like scribble that out, tear it up, or like burn it even, but it's just as a little ritual thing.
Cool. Mark, same questions for you. Tell people who you are, what you do, what it was like to play Terminal.
Yeah, I'm Mark Pager. I play a lot of games. I make a lot of games. I teach. I perform on stage and direct and teach there. I do a little bit of everything. You can find all my stuff on major.com, MAJCHER. I'm on all the platforms. I have a Itch store and a Gumroad store. So if you're interested, check it out.
Cool. What was it like to play Terminal?
Super great. I loved it. I woke up later than I thought I was going to today, and sort of like blearily jumped into the preview or the demo, and was just immediately like, oh wow, this is amazing. This is the art is spectacular in that. It's just so good. And then yeah, like you said, the character generation was so easy and so evocative. I mostly just rolled up random stuff, and I love doing that, just kind of like making the pieces fit together. And I really love, again, like I said, the world is so rich, and the different levels of interaction and world building and stuff is really compelling to me. It's like, it's fun being a kick-ass pirate, and then it's fun being the slick Matrix guy, and then it's fun doing the Inception. It's all interconnected. Great. Systems, really, really nice and simple, but also rich, and I just had a great time. Super good stuff.
Do you have any questions you want to ask Kayla?
Yeah, I love the pirate thing. I'm wondering what the Matrix is clearly the core of this, but I'm curious what the inspiration was to make it pirates instead of like whatever science fiction stuff.
It was interesting. Molly is just me putting it together, and I was working on like starting point was like a Matrix Inevitable hack because I helped playtest Inevitable, had enjoyed playing it, and I'm a big fan of the Matrix. I once had a therapist who asked me, have you ever seen The Matrix? And I managed to resist answering that by just like saying, come on, I'm trans. But it was part of me thinking about like, well, what do I do with the stuff in the real world? Because I find lots of the character interactions and stuff, they're really interesting in The Matrix. But I also necessarily had this feeling of, I don't necessarily know if it's always the funnest thing to be playing. Like, you know, certain stuff just changes when you're in a different sort of genre. There was also interesting things like an actual like early thought point where in terms of when I was like, I think the overworld will be very different, was me thinking like, oh, how does it work if you had surgeries in the terminal and then you wake up, what does that work like? And I ended up coming up with some solutions and like not solutions, but like there's some implications in the text about how things like that can work. And I was just early on thinking about like, well, what is this overworld? I think it should have some kind of theming, some kind of vibe that is a bit stronger. And then Pirates came early on just almost in an aesthetic way, but the more I began to tinker with that, I really loved a lot of the resonance. I think it comes from like a lot of like the themes of pirate fiction, where it's about sort of like outlaws, then specifically kind of about like rejects from society. It's about people who, you know, aren't necessarily going to fit in, and it makes sense that the standard enemy in pirate fiction is often about people who are like, we're bringing civilization. With pirates being like, I don't know if civilization is good. And that really fits here with this dynamic where the robot authority, who, like I said, are shaded with elements of sort of coercive control, are going like, this is what life should look like. And your characters are people saying, no, it's not. We're building our own world. We're building our own life. We're building and choosing our own family, and you don't get a say in any of this. And that feels like it, like, added an extra thing, as well as then just being a very sort of exciting art angle.
Yeah. It's cool that it's not only not okay for that world to be it like it inside, but also we're not going to make the real world like that either. It's
well, and I mean, it's everything about the hover ships in the Matrix is submarine / nautical coded anyways. Like it's not a sci-fi vibe at all. So I love just wearing it directly as the actual, but it also brings in a lot of great historiocracy, because to what you said, pirates were actually oftentimes doing society better. They were just outlawed, which is such a great insert into this from just a straight historical perspective also too. So did you have any bits of character that you didn't get to display? I mean, you got to just smash a lot of things, but I don't know if there was more to Goliath than that, or it's a piece that you wanted to highlight as far as a connection or something in the back of your head.
Yeah, the thing I rolled up randomly for the sleeping was athlete, and it wasn't until about 20 minutes into the game I was like, oh, he was a pro wrestler. Great. Okay, good.
I love that.
That's going to be a good time.
I love it. Was Goliath your pro wrestler name also too? Was that like early Resonance wake up?
It was Buck Wild.
Buck Wild.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is gold.
Goliath was actually I almost took Stinkhorn, but because I rolled the bug thing, and first I've been into Goliath beetles recently, so like Goliath it is.
Love it. I had an absolute blast. Like I mentioned, we got to play Inevitable a little bit, and it didn't click until you said it. That's why, why it was so familiar. it's so easy to create a character, but there's so much depth that comes from the different connections and other pieces like that can get pulled out, drawn in, other elements like that. One of my biggest things about Inevitable that I didn't like is its play to lose. Not that I don't like that. I like that for that game, but I'm like, oh man, how would you make this game last longer? And even talked with Jelly a little bit about like the ability to basically be like, what if you flashed over here to other parts of the world, played characters you knew were going to lose, and just wrapped that all back into the main setting? There's a lot of great things you can do in the system to extend the central narrative arc if you want to. And I will be forcing Jelly to write a happy ending at Gen Con this year, or killing them, one of the two. We'll find out.
I've heard that's the way to save me.
Yeah, if you don't know what that's about, go watch that stream. But it's such a great addition to this, and it's really cool to see a game at that stage of development already getting hacked. I always love kind of just seeing how people's DNA for their games get spread out. But I loved it. Like I said, I loved it. I also will just say, like, The Wake is one of the best pieces of great narrative wordplay written into a game in the last 10 years, as far as everything that it's doing in naming the real pirate world. The Wake is just very, very good. And then finding the Inception stuff later on in the game, even better. We talked a lot live about some of the thoughts I had and other stuff like that. I just think it was really great. I really adored this system as a quick way to do it. And I love the ability to play these longer things, play a little bit more open-ended campaign in that. So I think one of the things we didn't get into that I'll ask you a little bit more about, like, we saw Goliath get awakened to some Omen code, but even in just the short reading, that it does not necessarily mean that Goliath alone is an Omen, because you're doing something different with that. There is a kind of a change. And I think since people aren't going to get to see that play out, it's worth talking about. Can you talk a little bit more about how the Omen code and the relationship aspects are working in Terminal?
Yeah, so this was actually no, just talk about how it is in the game as the game as it is maybe makes more sense. So we established, like, there's been this long line. People say it's sort of reincarnation, an Omen returns, an Omen battles, an Omen initiates a reboot and die. But we heard that Transmit the Last Omen did something that changed it, that altered it. What you would learn in the course of a campaign is that the modifications Transmit somehow made to the Omen code, and that is a mystery that you can learn more about, but centered around one thing: connection, heartfelt, sincere connection. When this forms, the code can be shared. The Omen is no longer one. The Omen is no longer alone. The Omen is who someone can be through the bonds they've nurtured. Connection might be romantically, if that's something you feature at your table. It could be about intimate friendship or connections not so easily put into words. And when one part of a powerful connection is threatened, they can open their mind and the code can be shared. It's not something you achieve in a quiet lull. It takes peril and passion. But this moment is sort of transformative, and it essentially means that multiple people are in a network of omens, all sort of taking on the onus. It's an interesting thing. Some of it is about, like, how does something change when you take that inspiration into a different thing, but it was into a different medium where it's like, it doesn't make sense to go like one character is more important than everyone else. But I think thematically it is a lot. This is a game about, choosing, about choice, and about making a choice, and about making a choice about the people you care about and look after and are connected with. And so I think it plays into that theme in a big way, to be like, yeah, there's no singular messiah, chosen one figure here. If you are connected, if you are choosing each other, you're all the chosen one.
I love it. No, and awesome. I actually, my character with some of the roles that I got, because I rolled like you were able to manipulate code before you got pulled out in some way, shape, or form on the table. And I was like, I love the idea. And I did. This is because I was like, Daniel's going to show up with some A-game name shit. I named my sleeper character, my name that I crossed out, #Taggart. And so, but just that, my like concierge like capabilities were literally about me. Like whenever I requested something from the hotel, that there was some weird code buildup that just made that thing always happen. So I was only good at my job because of a weird code glitch that I was able to manipulate. and wrote it as a, oh, this is somebody who people will think is an omen, who will absolutely reject that reality and not want that at all, and potentially not be that, which is why I didn't want to be that character to step forward at the end. I'd be like, I want Ring to be the last person to like be like, all right, fine. Like, but I love the openness that is, because anytime, and you see this in like Monster of the Week, right? You have like playbooks that are specifically kind of thrush a character into being the main character, and that's always a problem when you have intellectual properties, movies, and games that are about, especially about the one, right? Or about the Omen, or about this, you're the Slayer and it's your destiny, right? Whatever. So the way that you've written this is incredibly great from a play state also, while fully embracing here's the history of things, and very clearly like some of the conversations that happen in some of the medium influences around relationship, and just pushing those further and saying this will make a better play state. Like seeing all that come together, like I absolutely loved getting a chance to sit down, play that, and knowing how that campaign could unfold is just a really enjoyable thing that you can already see from a session 0, choices that have been made, random rolls that have happened, and the way the narrative is building, how some of those different pieces might come in. And so just really great taking genre influences and then pushing past them and saying something more specific within the text itself, but also that just really sings at the table. So I really enjoyed it. I had a great time playing. Also, too, I even love like some of the different realities of when you're in the real world, equipment is probably going to come in very specifically in very specific ways, or if when you're in the wake, equipment's going to come in very specifically in very equipment ways, and you're gonna hit that one a whole lot. When you're in the terminal, certain things are going to happen. When you're in dream, certain things are going to happen more often. That flexibility is a really fun thing to play around in, where the fictional positioning will often affect how many dice you are rolling, but not in a way that really even addresses is bounce a question, because you can always do any of them if you can figure it out. But you are going to be more inclined to lean on certain ones at certain points. Just a lot of really amazing things that I see kind of unfolding in this. So, yeah. Is there anything you wanted to ask any of us? And then if not, we'll sign off.
I guess I was like, I think, your question about like, things about your characters that you thought about that hadn't necessarily gone into. I guess, did anyone have a contact that they were interested in seeing? I loved the fact, Tony, that you said, like, let's bring in the wizard. They're one of my... They're maybe one of my favorite characters just because they're a bit ridiculous and crap, essentially. And I liked that for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a contact with I was the rival of the bodyguard, which is the program most singularly skilled in combat. I thought that might be a fun thing to clash with at some point. Yeah,
bodyguard is interesting because where they can end up is actually specifically the bodyguard for characters you like, and then she's she's on your side at this point if she's protecting people you like, even though she's a program. But you've got that rivalry and rivalhood there. It's interesting.
Yeah, that's juicy. I love it.
The only one I didn't trigger was the puppeteer trying to keep me from waking up, which I'm glad we didn't see the puppeteer. Like that feels like not a thing we would have wanted.
Yeah.
No. And also, I feel like the puppeteer. My idea of them is they're a sort of session. I don't think you should see them in a session 1. I think they should be a sort of down the line after they've made their influence very felt. They definitely, for me, they're not about doctors, I've known. Is what I would say about the puppeteer. No, nothing else comes to mind for me. I had an absolute blast running. Thank you for having me on.
For sure. Dan, did you have any connections that you didn't get to trigger that you were excited about?
Not particularly, no. I think I also had the wizard as one of my connections for helping me wake up. So I liked that we both had that.
Whiz bros.
Nice.
So love it. Well, with that said, we are going to be gone at Gen Con next week. So if you are at Gen Con, come by booth 449, say hello. We would love to see you. Mark, are you coming?
I'm going to be running stuff for Games on Demand. I'll be running 3 sessions of my game, The Empire Never Ended, which is a Philip K. Dick story game. But I'm doing that all virtually, and all the sessions are full up. So
Cool. We also are doing a thing in our server, ttrpg.link/Discord, called Gen Can't. So if you can't show up to Gen Con, don't want to show up to Gen Con, big cons aren't your thing, or you have real reasons for not being able to come, including financial accessibility and other things like that, we realize that's a huge thing for a lot of people. So I think Dan Phipps might be, I don't know that Dan is committed to this, but it was open to it, running a little mini painting session where people are just going to get together and paint some minis. I know Marcos Serrano, Spicy Tuna, is going to run their new Together We Go Sinestro inspired, so Yellow Lantern, Green Lantern-esque RPG during the weekend. So we'll have some games. Those won't be on stream, so you'll either be in the server and have a chance to play. If you're in our server and watching this and you want to run something this weekend, next weekend, let us know, but we'll be off for the next couple of weeks. And then we'll be back. If you're at Gen Con, like we said, say hello. But before you do any of that, head on over to ttrpg.link/TerminalKS. Check out the game. Back if you're able to. If you're not able to back, all we ask, if you can help share it with folks who might be able to. When you can't financially support a game, the best way to support the creator is sharing it with other people who might be able to, but we hope you can. Until next time, we're just going to wave at the screen until I take us off air.